From about 1920 to 1930 odd something, the Brooklyn neighborhood, Union Street in South Brooklyn, it had once been a big Italian immigrant colony. It was a poor place, but it had witnessed so many murders between 1920 and 1930, before 1940, that it was dubbed Death Valley. There was this guy, Joe Mannino, and he was a bootlegger, and he had a partner named Giuseppe Piraino. Pirano had a twisted, paralyzed hand, so he was called a clutching hand. It was apparently a favorite nickname for Italian gangsters with clutching hands in that day. There was another, as you probably know. They had once robbed a pier in Red Hook where liquor was being dropped off. They pulled up a truck and were loading the liquor onto the truck. The cops showed up. A slight shootout. Manino was suspended sentence, but Piranio went to Sing Sing. While Pirano, the clutching hand, was in jail, Manino continues the bootlegging thing, and he's doing well. He's building up an organization. He had one arrest in 1923, which wasn't bad. He got fined $250 and released. The clutching hand leaves Sing Sing, gets out of Sing Sing, and Manino becomes, as he always was, the lieutenant in what is now called the Clutching Hand Gang. Police assumed that the Clutch Hand would more than likely be the contender to take over the Brooklyn rackets when Frankie Yale was murdered in 1928 on Al Capone's orders. However, that didn't happen. He was murdered in March of 1930, and Mannino stepped forward to take over the gang. Mannino fronted as an olive oil importer. He also had an interest in a fish store. He'd been in the U.S. 14 years, and he got up quite a record in those 14 years. He was suspected of running a large immigrant smuggling business. He was also probably the murderer of a guy named Giuseppe Candello, who had a banana stand on a corner, but wouldn't pay off. And so they told him, get out. He wouldn't get out. They killed him. It was a mob murder. So Manino probably was mafia or something. Who knows? Anyway, he's 33 years old. After his partner's dead, he's walking down Union Street in Brooklyn, and he spotted two men coming after him, and he dashed into a doorway, but he didn't make it. They caught up with him. They shot him 7 times. At least 50 people were present, but nobody saw anything. What had happened was Marino and Piranio had been muscling their way into beer territory near the waterfront that was controlled by Lucky Luciano. They'd been warned to back off. They didn't, and they were killed. There's one more footnote to this, is that Piranio's son, Carmen, said he swore vengeance. He was going to go out and kill whoever did that. He just should have kept quiet because they murdered him a few weeks after they murdered his father. Apparently, vengeance, what was left of the Clutching Hand Gang, caught up with the suspected killers. One was Giuliani Garcia and Tito Balsamo, and they had been arrested for the murder and then released. And the Clutching Hand Gang, caught up with Garcia, and they murdered him. He was killed around midnight on November 16, 1931. He sat in the open court kitchen on Court Street in South Brooklyn. With Benito Ruggiero, a bootlegger guy. And the third guy with him, but when the gunners showed up, the third guy, whoever he was, ran through the kitchen and lived. Ruggiero stood up from the table, but they shot him 10 times. And Garcia got it 12 times, died on the spot.